Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Slovenia once again, and this is yet another beer from the second coming of the Davor box, as I've called it. So a huge thank you to Davor Šireč for making this review possible. He's followed the channel I think since my first ever Slovenian beer review, which was one of the ones from Pivovarna Pelletson, and he sent me 2 boxes filled with Slovenian beer to review for you guys. So a huge thank you once again to Davor for making this review possible. And this is another brewery who I have never tried anything from, so very curious about this one. So today we're going to go to the second city of Slovenia, Maribor, in the northeastern part of the country, and we're having a taste of my first beer from the Lobik craft brewery. So we're having a taste of the Able Archer 83 today. This one is a double New England style IPA coming in at 8.3%, and Davor actually sent me 4 different cans from Lobik. So I just picked this one pretty much because my family are a military family. We've had numerous generations now in the Air Force, so this one had all the helicopters and everything on it. So out of the 4 cans that I had, this one just seemed the natural one to go with. But very curious to see how this one turns out, and I'm sure it will be a good beer because Davor has never given me a bad beer before. So very much looking forward to this, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. The Slovenian craft beers, by the way, tend to be pretty damn good. It usually always seems to be the case that a country that is very good at winemaking, such as Slovenia, tend to also be very good at their craft beers as well, and my experience with Slovenian craft beer so far has been really quite positive actually. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Lobik Craft Brewery. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I said. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Slovenian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to whenever I get the opportunity, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Lobik Brewery then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, the Lobik Brewery are based in Maribor in Slovenia, which is the second city and up in the northeastern part of the country. But the company was officially founded back in 2016, and it was founded by a group of 4 friends who began home brewing together back in 2008. So this was Gregor Mumal, Alan Zaric, Grega Boltic, and also Vid Kolmanec Bucar, if I'm pronouncing those names correctly. I do apologise if I'm butchering the Slovenian pronunciations. But the 4 friends met at rowing training, and they were too young to buy beer, and so they decided that to get round this they would go and brew their own. And initially they just wanted to brew basically a lager beer, but they learned through the wonders of the internet that there were a whole host of different beer styles, and this got them hooked on the idea of just experimenting with lots of different things. So Alan and Gregor apparently work on recipes together, while although Gregor apparently also works as a doctor in Austria, and Vid and Grega apparently deal with the distribution side of the brewery. They were students for a number of years in Ljubljana, so they made some very good connections there. But the original 4 are now joined at the brewery by Vid Zlebnik and also Aljas Petric, again if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But the name Lobik apparently translates into English as fat fish, and the idea behind this was the fact that the guys were all at rowing training together. They put on a lot of weight from all the training that they were doing, but also a lot of weight from the beer that they were drinking as well. So apparently it's meant to be one of these kind of double-barrel joke kind of things. But they started off with a very small 60-litre brew kit, and they were brewing in a rented basement in Maribor, but they opened up their own brewery in April of 2016 in the Ruše district, which is the industrial area of the city from what I gather, and they've been doing very well since then. And apparently they're using most of the brewery's income to save up to buy new tanks and fermentation vessels and stuff like this, so they are seriously looking to invest in the future. But they're also actually starting to export their beer now as well. They're exporting to Italy, Scotland and also Ireland as well apparently. I've never even seen any of their beers in Scotland actually, which is quite interesting, so I would be very interested to know where they are going in my homeland, because I've never ever seen these before. I knew the name Lobik through Davor right enough, but I've never heard of anyone in Scotland actually drinking these beers, so I would be curious to know about that. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the Lobik brewery just now. As I say, a brewery that seemed to be one of the newer ones on the block in Slovenia, but they are you know, pretty highly regarded regarded from what I gather. So yeah, if you do want to learn a little bit more, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Untappd, and also Instagram and things like that, and that will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on. But as I say, Davor seems to rate them very highly, and he seems to, he seems to be quite well known in when it comes to the Slovenian craft beer scene as well. So again, a huge thank you to Davor for supporting my Slovenian craft beer reviews. It's always cool to introduce beers to you from different countries and things like this, and Slovenia is somewhere that I definitely need to go down and visit sometime. I'm hoping to be able to do that in the summer of 2020 actually, so fingers crossed I can get it to work next time. But yeah, let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself then. So it says on the side here, the brink of apocalypse. Abel Archer was a NATO exercise in 1983, and it was also one of the closest instances we came to a nuclear war. Dudes on one side were confused because the dudes on the other side looked really realistic. This is how we feel with this beer. It's the last financially viable beer people would actually buy from us, with 8.3% alcohol, special liquid yeast, and 40 grams per litre of Citra, Mosaic, Amarillo and Galaxy lead this most pre-apocalyptic double dry hopped double New England IPA. So yeah, this one is a little bit of a monster actually, and as I said, I picked this one out of the 4 that Davor sent me just because of the artwork on it. I don't know if that's, I'm thinking that's a Huey hog that's on this. I'm not sure about the different types of tanks. I was always into my helicopters and my planes being from an Air Force family. My grandfather was a Spitfire pilot in the Second World War, 1940 to 1946. So yeah, I was always really into my planes, and my uncle flew helicopters later in the Air Force as well, which was kind of cool. But yeah, really nicely presented this one. I do quite like the different style of artwork. Lobik do seem to be quite varied in their different styles of artwork as well, just from the cans I've seen so far. And there you can see on the top, there it is, the Lobik Brewery symbol. I do quite like that actually, just the fish kind of getting drunk on his beer there, the posh fish getting drunk on his beer. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. So I guess without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see how this one turns out actually. Oh, and you can smell how fresh this beer is already. But apparently these guys brew a lot of different beers with the different Slovenian hops as well. You know, Slovenia, it's a very small country geographically, but they've got hops like the Styrian Wolf, the Salaya, Dana, the Styrian Goldings. You know, they really do have a fairly, you know, a very respectable hop producing you know, they've really got a big hop producing region there, but it's just the volumes, because it is a small country. You don't get that many other European breweries using Slovenian hops from what I gather, just because they don't produce all that many of them. But I can speak from personal experience, the Styrian Wolf hop is an absolute beauty, you know, lovely melon flavours and things like that, and their Salaya and other things. They do seem to just be experimenting a lot, and as I say, when it comes to Slovenia, it's a well regarded wine country, and you know, in my experience, they also do some pretty damn awesome beers as well. But yeah, with this beer, it's poured exactly as you would expect. If I hold this one up to the light, I would describe this one as being quite a deep orangey colour. You can see there's a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, I think it's a cream colour head on this one rather than a perfect white head. I think definitely kind of nice and creamy, but 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks very, very nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see just how hazy this beer is. This one is pretty much just, you know, it's basically soup essentially. It's one of these kind of haze for days crazy New England IPAs, but it looks absolutely lovely. So yeah, and when you open this beer up straight away, you get some lovely big fruity aromas out of it. But in terms of appearance for this one, nothing surprising about this when you consider that it's a double New England IPA. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Oh, I can tell straight away this one is going to be a bit of a monster. And the thing that's quite funny actually is one of the other beers that Davor has sent me is a triple New England IPA. So if this one's like this, I'm very curious to see what that triple New England IPA is going to be like. It will be an absolute beast. But yeah, this one smells really nice actually. The malt base on this is quite interesting. One of the things I always found about the Slovenian beers, with the other IPAs, with the West Coast IPAs, it seemed to me that the Slovenian IPAs, they were always really oily and juicy. The Slovenians, and you do find little kind of niches like this. When you try beers from different countries, you start to get an idea of what local people actually like. And in the wine producing countries, it does seem to me that they like a little bit of oily fruitiness. in their beers, and you see that in Slovenia as well. But they've also got a little bit of a kind of sweet malt base, and you can pick up some of the sweetness in the malt base in this one, just in the aroma too. So you've got that lovely oaty creaminess. You can pick up that there's a sort of wheaty, white bready kind of vibe to this beer as well, and you've also got some nice biscuity kind of notes coming out. It reminds me of McVitie's digestive biscuits. I don't know if you get those in Slovenia right enough, but back home in Scotland, you know, you get these McVitie's digestive biscuits, and it just, the aroma just reminds me a little bit of the kind of corn syrup. I don't know if you can call it corn syrup, but it just reminds me of that sort of sweet biscuity note that you get out of these beers. So yeah, just pay attention to that. The malt base in this one comes across as being really creamy, but also very, very nice. But you've got a hell of a lot of hop presence to this one as well. You can pick up a teeny little bit of earthiness in this one, which is the mosaic. The mosaic will give you just a little touch of an earthy quality, but on top of that you get the nice floral notes. All of the hops in this one will be contributing to the floral notes, and you've got a nice little bit of a lighter grassiness too, but there's a whole host of fruity quality coming out of this beer. So you've got mangoes, you've got the mangoes will be coming from the citra, you've got a nice passion fruity note to this one as well, which will be the galaxy. Oranges in there as well, Amarillo and the mosaic giving you that. The mosaic gives you a slightly more juicy kind of tangerine note right enough, but mangoes, passion fruits, oranges really kind of obvious in this one as well. Yeah, those are the main things you're getting out of this. It really is very nice. The aroma, really juicy. You can pick up a little bit of a kind of lychee, pineapple-y sort of thing as well, and those are the complexities that you get from the citra and from the galaxy right enough. And you can get a little bit more of that from the mosaic too. Usually the mosaic gives you a little bit of blueberry, but I would say in terms of the aroma, it's the oranges and the mangoes and passion fruits that are really dominating this one. I would say it leans a little bit more towards the mango and passion fruity side of things, and the oranges come out a little bit more towards the front of the nose. But in terms of the aroma, it's a really nice beer. The malty qualities are jumping out a little bit, which is quite nice. And I mean, you would expect that when it's a double IPA as well. You do expect the malt to have a slightly heavier presence in it. But yeah, it smells really nice. And as I say, if you like a sort of tropical smell in IPA, you are going to enjoy the aroma of this one. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But let's have a taste of this one now. So this one is the Able Archer 83. From Lobik Brewery in Maribor up in Slovenia. Once again, a huge thank you to Davor for making this review possible, and I hope you guys in Slovenia are enjoying this kind of mini series that I'm doing for you. So let's get stuck in then. Slanja, skål, na zdravje. Oh yeah. Right. That is a very, very good beer, and I'm really not surprised. You know, one, because as I say, Davor is not going to send me a bad beer. He knows his stuff. He really does. But you know, it kind of speaks to have another brewery. I mean, I was very impressed with Pivovarna Pelletsson. You know, Pivovarna Tectonic is another one that I've tried, and Pivovarna Reservoir Dogs. You know, the quality of beer that's coming out of Slovenia is just, it really is very good. And it's one of these things, you know, it's a small country, population-wise, geography-wise, but you know, if they can produce beers like this, it really kind of speaks volumes for them. You know, I had a Slovenian flatmate in my first year at university, Jernej, and he always used to go on about the quality of Slovenian wines, and they were beautiful, and the beer is exactly the same. So you know, it's really cool actually just to see the quality of this. And when Davor keeps sending me different breweries and I try the beers and they're this good, you know, the Slovenians have got a hell of a lot of good beer that they can choose from. So you know, I really definitely need to get down there at some point soon. I really want to visit it because it's supposed to be an absolutely beautiful place. Yeah, it's a really, really good beer, that. The thing that's surprising me about this one a little bit, the mouthfeel of this is a little bit different actually. It's very, when you see the appearance of it, you think it's actually going to be a little bit more creamy and things like that than it is. And it does have all the New England flavours that you'd want, but it's just a little bit wetter and slightly more oily in its mouthfeel than I was expecting. So this one has all the flavours you'd expect, but the mouthfeel for me is just a little bit different. So let's try and break down this flavour then. There's quite a lot going on in this one. So in the middle of your palate, you can feel some of that lovely white bready, wheaty kind of quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, and the further you go into the aftertaste, you start to get some of the oaty kind of creamy notes in there as well. But you've got a lovely little bit of a biscuity sweetness to this beer too, which is nice. I mean, the malt base isn't really doing anything surprising, if you like, but it has everything you would expect, and it's nicely put together. I like the smoothness that it has from that bready quality, and as I said, in the aroma, it really does have a little bit more of a kind of a presence, if you like, than you might expect from these beers. But it's really very nicely done, actually. I'm finding the more that I drink of this beer, the slightly sweeter that central part of my palate is actually getting. I really like how this whole thing goes together. The malt base, as I say, is simple, but the way it works together is really quite nice. And the focus on this beer, though, is the hops. And I'll say about this one too, it's sort of fitting that Slovenian, that almost, if you can say, stereotype that I have of the of the IPAs from Slovenia. It's got a lovely, oily, juicy, fruity quality to it. So we'll focus on that in a minute. But in the back corners of the palate then, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness to the beer, and that'll be the mosaic that's giving you that. The mosaic just has a little bit of this kind of soft earthiness. But as you come further forward along the side of your palate, that just smooths out a little bit. And then you start to get some nice kind of floral aromaticity towards the front corners of your palate. Then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit lighter and sort of grassy there. And it's just nice and subtle. It works very well with that lovely malt base that this beer has. Behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you start to get some of these juicy fruity esters and that little oily bubble that you get there. So for me, this one, if you go to the very back of the oily bubble, I think there's a little tiny touch of grapefruit there. That can come from the citra sometimes, depending on what you mix it with. But when you come a little bit further forward from that, you get the passion fruit, which is from the Galaxy. The Galaxy gives you this lovely passion fruity note, and you can definitely feel those slightly darker, almost more sour tropical fruit flavours in this one. And when you come a little bit further forward from that, that's when you start to get the tangerines from the mosaic, and also the more oily orangey flavours from the Amarillo as well. Yeah. And it's interesting that, because I'm finding the slightly darker grapefruity flavours, they come out a little bit later. So when you first take this beer in, if you focus on the fruity part of your palate, I'm finding that it's orange, and then it starts to kind of evolve more into like a sort of mango-y note after that, and then you start to get these kind of darker, almost, as I say, almost more sour passion fruity and grapefruit notes. It's a really interesting kind of fruity transition that this beer makes. If you go to the very front kind of tip of your tongue as well, I think there's a little hint of like a blueberry in there, and that's one of the complexities that you can get from mosaic. I've always found you always get a little touch of blueberry, and there's some kind of lychee notes in there as well, which is from the citra. It's one of the complexities you can get from the citra, and maybe even there's just a little hint, there's a little bit of pineapple or something too, which again can come from the I think it would be the Galaxy that you would get that one from, to be honest. I always remember that Galaxy hop is passion fruit and pineapple that you get from that. And yeah, but all the hops in this are contributing really nicely. It's got 4 hops in the beer, and they're all contributing different things to the flavours. The orangey tangerine notes are coming from the mosaic and the Amarillo. You've got the passion fruit, which is coming from the Galaxy. The mango is coming probably from the citra. You've got a little bit of that darker grapefruity note as well, which will be more from the citra too. Blueberry from the mosaic, pineapple from the Galaxy, and a little bit of the lychee kind of flavours from the citra as well. So the fruity side of the beer is definitely where the complexity in this one lies, but it's got a really nicely done malt base to back up, and the way that the sort of green elements of the hops are coming out, the way that the green elements of the hops are coming out are very, very nice as well. So this one, to me, very, very solid double IPA. And it's really cool to be able to try something like this for you. This is definitely one of the smoother double IPAs, double New England IPAs, I should say, that I've had in quite a wee while. This one, quite easily it stands up there with the likes of the things I've had from Brewski and Stigbergets and stuff like that. it really is a very nice beer. You know, if they keep experimenting with this style, you know, they're going to do some very, very good stuff. I'd love to see them do a beer like this with just only Slovenian hops. I would love to try something like that from these guys. But yeah, it really is very nice. Overall, in terms of the New England sort of style, I mean, when you start to get around the 8% mark, this is where you've got to be careful with them. And I was finding this with some of the brewski beers. If you start to get up to that kind of alcohol percentage, you have to be careful how you do the malt base, because I've always found unless you add a bit of caramel or biscuit malt or something like that to it, you can find that they can be a little bit boozy. And you can't. One of the things I would say with this beer is that you can tell when you drink this one that it is a bit higher in alcohol. Although there have been some New England pale ales and IPAs and double IPAs and stuff like that I've tried where you really couldn't tell how high in alcohol it was. But that said, it takes nothing away from the beer. This is a really, really damn good New England style IPA, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. I like how everything is going together in this one. So have a go at it for yourself if you get the chance and just see what you think. But for me, this is really good. And if this is what these guys are producing after, what, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. No, it will be 2 years, sorry, telling you lies. And if this is what these guys are producing after 2.5 years, you know, that's pretty impressive actually. They're doing some really, really good stuff down there. So big thumbs up to the guys at Lobik Brewery for this one. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say this beer is... it's at the top end of mid-bodied, maybe the bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth. The mouthfeel overall is, as I say, I'd say it leans more towards the oily side of things. It does have an element of creaminess to it, but to me, this is definitely one of the more oily and more oily and slightly wet double New England IPAs that I've had. But it works for it. It really does work very well. There's a nice little bit of hoppy bitterness to this one. I think you're talking somewhere between the 30 and 40 IBU mark with this beer. Probably nearer the 30 with this one, to be honest. The malt base has a lovely balance of smoothness and sweetness to it. Not overly sweet, I'd say more smooth rather than anything else. The hoppy bitterness, like I say, about 40 IBUs, nice little bit of floral and grassy quality in there. It's almost a little bit noble actually, so I do wonder if they've used some Slovenian hops in there as the bittering hop, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they've used Dana or something like that in here just to give it a little bit of grassy bitterness. It really does have a bit of a noble presence to it, and the Slovenian hops are quite similar in their flavour profile to some of the German noble hops, if you like, the grassy and floral elements especially. But yeah, a lot of lovely juicy fruity character from this one, but the main thing just to take away from this is it's a very, very solid double New England IPA, and if you like the style, I think you really will enjoy this one, and it's been a pleasure to review this for you. So once again, a huge thank you to Davor for making this review possible, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer as well. So let's leave it at that for this one. The Able Archer 83, a very, very smooth and kind of easy drinking double New England IPA from Lobik Brewery. They've done a great job of this, and I'm very curious to see what the other beers that Davor's given me from these guys have to offer. So yeah, you'll see those coming up over the next couple of weeks. I'll probably film them quite quickly though, just to drink them when they're fresh. But thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Lobik Brewery as well, and I'll definitely be returning to these guys in the fairly near future. Hopefully in the future I can get something on the dark side of the spectrum from them as well. That would be very interesting to try. You always want to try something from the dark side or from the light side to get a good measure of a brewery, but so far very, very impressed with these guys and excited to see what their other beers have to offer. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below, and let me know some other Slovenian beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. So until the next time, it's Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. The Able Archer 83 from the Lobik Brewery in Maribor, Slovenia. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, Skull, Nastravia.